Hello, this is Georgia Lucas. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. And today I want to talk about buying flats in the UK. Now, buying a property is likely to be the most expensive purchase you ever make. So it is important that you do get this right. Today, I'll go over 15 points which you need to look over before going to see that flat and purchasing it. So without further ado, let's go to point number one, price. Very obvious one, but I want to combine it with the size of the flat. So have a look at price per square meter. This is very important because often people, when they look at going to see flats, they look at, oh, this is a 2-bedroom flat, that is a 3-bedroom flat, that is a 1-bedroom flat, and they often don't look at the size. Size is really important because it lets you know if you're getting a good deal or not. So you could have flats at similar prices, 2 bedrooms, one can be 50 square meters, one can be 70 square meters. So if you go for the one of 50 square meters, obviously you're paying a lot more for your pound. Number two, very obvious one, location. Where is the flat? Is it near shopping facilities? Is it near schools? Is it near transport links? An obvious one, but obviously do your homework on that. Third, is it share of freehold or is it leasehold? Now, preferably if the flat is share of freehold, that's much better. But if it is leasehold, please make sure you look at the number of years left on that lease, because any flat which is 80 years or less, if you want to renew the lease, that's going to cost a lot of money. I would suggest you go for a flat which has at least 100 years lease, simply because you're going to take into consideration two things. One, to renew a lease, you need to live in a flat for at least 2 years. Also, if you buy a flat, example 90 years lease, and you want to sell it in 10 years from now, you've got to look at a potential future buyer. Will that buyer be interested in that flat? Because you may have 90 years left on the lease left on the flat now, but that, as you live in the flat, that lease keeps going down, so it may be less attractive to a future buyer. Now, number four I want to go on to is it ex-council? Often what I find is that you look at flats on the internet and they look amazing value for money. Often you go and see them only to find that they're ex-council. Now, if you're interested in ex-council, that's fine. I personally am not, simply because if there's a repair job in an ex-council flat and you are one of the few people that owns flats in a block where most are council, you're going to pay a lot more for those repairs. Number five, service charge. This is quite amazing how service charges vary between flats which are of a similar size and in a similar location. You can often find differences of £1,000 to £2,000 a year. So over a period of 10 years, you're looking at 15 to 20,000 in many cases. So be very careful. Have a look at what that service charge is before buying, or even before going to see the flat. Number six, ground rent. Now, most flats are pretty much okay. They often have ground rents of £50 to £100 a year, which may go up in 20 to 30 years by another £50. But there are some which have ground rents which are quite high and that can be doubled in a space of 10 years. Be very careful with those ones because they may be difficult to sell in the future, or they may end up costing you a lot of more money than you'd anticipated in the first place. Number seven, we're coming to the council tax. This is another very important one because depending where you buy the flat, the council tax can be quite high or quite low. I want to just take an example in London where I'm based. In 2019 to 2020 council tax, I'm going to take 2 boroughs for a council D property. So in Wandsworth, it would have set you back £771 a year. In Kingston, £1,871. That's quite a bit of a difference. That's more than £1,000 difference every year. So if you buy the one in Kingston, that could end up costing you £10,000 more in the space of 10 years, or more, actually more than that. So also there, you've got to be very careful. It's another factor. I'm not saying it's a deciding one, but you've got to be careful how much the council tax will cost every year. Number eight, is another one where you've got to see, but very careful when you buy the flat. Are works due on that flat? So are there going to be repair jobs to the garages in the block, extra costs for redoing the building, the roof, etc.? That may end up costing you a lot more than you think. So I recently met somebody who bought a flat, had a budget and didn't realize there were works to be done, and ended up over a number of years spending another £10,000. So be very, very careful on that one. Number 9, what floor is the flat on? Now, in general, unless it's a garden flat and you've got extra space, the higher you are, the better, because it's considered a lot more safe if you're on the 4th floor. Top floor is always the best because it's more private than on the ground floor, where burglaries are a little bit easier. Now, number 10 is lift. Does the flat have a lift? In general, a lift is always an excellent feature. And I want to go back to point 10 and 9 and combine them, because I did say that the higher you are, the better. But if there's no lift in the building, that's not so good. So if you're on the 4th floor in a condominium which has no lift, that's a disadvantage, because it means carrying the extra shopping. So again, have a look and see if there's a lift in the building. Much better if there's a lift, or if there isn't a lift. Right, number 11, often ignored. Does the flat get the sun? So it's always a good idea if the flat is southeast facing rather than north or northwest facing, because you will get more sun in that case. That's particularly true of the living room, where you're going to live in the most. So go to the living room. Better to see this the flat on a nice sunny day. I do appreciate in the UK quite often you don't get the sun, but if you are able to, go in there and see if there's a lot of light, if it's airy, etc., and you're getting a lot of light in from the sun. Because if it's north facing, you don't get the sun for too much of the day. Right, number 12 is the layout of the flat. Now, this one you might think, what do you mean by the layout of the flat? Many people, do not like a situation where to get to a bedroom, you've got to go through a living room. It's always better if bedrooms, for example, are independent of the living room, so you don't have to go through one to get to another. That will detract from the value of the flat. And if you want to sell in the future, I find that those flats are a lot more difficult to sell. So be careful of those things. Be careful. Is it open plan? Is there a window in the kitchen? Is there a window in the bathroom? In general, especially for older flats, it's better if there's a window in the kitchen and a window in the bathroom, because it's a lot more light, it's a lot more airy. You can get, rather than having a ventilator extractor fan in the bathroom, it's nicer to have a window. It's not a deal breaker, but it's a nice thing to have a look at. Now, number 13 is how many flats are actually on the floor. Usually in most blocks, you tend to get 2 flats per floor, but there are some others where you can get 3 or more, and I tend to think when that's the case, it's a little bit of a disadvantage, because you're likely to have a little bit less privacy. So do look out for that. It's not a deal breaker, but it's an advantage if there's only 2 per floor. Right, number 14, very important, the state of the flat. Obviously, is it well painted? Have a look at the boiler. If it's a combi boiler, for example, that's recently been installed in, that's potential extra £1,000–2,000 value which the flat has, compared to, let's say, if there's an old boiler. Again, have a look at the radiators. Are the radiators new? New radiators do cost a lot of money, so do check those things out. And finally, number 15, I want to come to what I call other features of the flat. So other things like, does it have a garage, parking space, are there communal gardens? Those kind of things will always add a bit extra to the flat. Next video will be about houses. This has been potentially a little bit brief, but if you want me to actually extend on the points, the 15 points I've said in this video, please do not hesitate, put them in the comments below, and potentially I may make another video about the points I have made. But these 15 points I do believe are the most important points when you're looking at flats. This is Giorgio Lucas. Please do click that subscribe button, click the notification bell, and I'll see you very soon on another video. Thanks and have a good day.